This meeting is being recorded.
Hey. We'll let people trickle in. It is the land of mañana.
We are ready to jump on this class.
All right.
Okay.
Because I know one of them has it. Thank you, sir.
The doorbell sound. Welcome everybody. We are probably going to start a couple minutes after the hour. Welcome. I'd like to invite you to share your cameras and mute your mics as you join. Good thing my dog's not here. Hope everybody's having a great day.
Travis, talk to Gary. He's going to be on the road, so he may be in, may not be in
Oh no.
with service, but he says you've got the full reins, so as you can handle it.
That's not good.
And wanted to maybe mention as well, I know most of everybody that's going to be on here, you've seen the email, but you may want to If you're not receiving the email, you may want to go and see if you can request to have Club Express added to the non-block list.
Cool.
Because he was in Eddy County and they weren't receiving the email. So
they just go into Club Express and update their settings, right?
Club Express update their settings, but also their IT department may be blocking as well.
Oh, yes. So whitelist the domain probably.
Yeah.
Good point. Welcome everybody. We'll give it one more minute. Feel free to turn your cameras on and turn your mics off. For now, of course. We will have time for questions and comments. Cool. Okay, it's 12:01. Hello, everyone. I'm Travis Dettenleida. Of course, some of you may know me. If you don't, I'm the Vice President here at NMPPA. We've opened this meeting up for non-members. Traditionally, these meetings are for members, but we kind of want to open it up and give you all a taste of what we provide, and then invite you guys to register as members on our website. If you're not getting the emails from the system, it may be because you're either not a member, or IT has blocked the domain, or you have your preferences set to not get the emails. Another housekeeping thing, elections are coming up. So this go round, we're going to have elections for the president and secretary. So definitely keep that in mind. And then of course, the board, if you guys want to cut me off or say anything, feel free. I'm just going through my list. Cool. Okay, yeah. These master classes, we're going to try and put them on YouTube, and we're going to be a lot more consistent with them. Today we have a visitor from DC. Her name is Sydnee Distance.
Not.
Please mute your mic when you come in. Thank you.
.k12.nm.us.
Or
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I would mute, but I can't. I don't have the permissions.
All right, and then
Thank you. So again, Sydnee Distance, she's from DC, so Washington, DC, Baltimore area, and she is at Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, so she is a fellow government public servant, and she has done trainings with NIGP, and we are thankful to have her. The name of the course is From Need to Negotiation, Mastering Requirements, Planning, and Procurement. Strong procurement outcomes start long before the solicitation is issued. In this session, you'll learn how to identify and define needs, engage key stakeholders, gather the right information to ensure your procurement process delivers the right product or service on time, with budget, and to specification. Whether you're a stakeholder working with procurement, a seasoned buyer, or new to procurement field, this webinar will provide actionable steps to strengthen your requirements planning and set your project up for success. Thank you. Sydney, please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Travis. And I'm so excited to be here with each of you today. So good afternoon. Welcome. Today, we're just going to do a deep dive into from need to negotiation, as Travis mentioned, excuse me. I'll do my best to keep things light and fun. I know procurement is a heavy topic, but I am the jokester, so you're in for a real treat. I hope that you guys like corny jokes because I am the queen of corny jokes. So just hang in there with me today. In the meantime, just so it's interactive, if you're able to use the chat, just tell me where you are from, one word that describes procurement planning at your agency. Sorry, I said that all in one. Just tell me where you're from and one word that describes procurement planning at your agency. And while you're doing that, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Sydnee Distance. I'm a purchasing professional from the Washington, D.C. area. I've been in some form of acquisition and contract management for the last 15 years, ranging from grants management to budget analyst to contract manager to procurement lead, senior contract administrator, and today I serve as the manager of strategy and policy at WMATA. Anyone been to DC? If you rode the public transit in DC, that's where I work. I work at WMATA, also known as Metro, and we basically service Maryland, DC, and Virginia for train, bus, and other services. Right now in my job, I kind of serve as a procurement strategist and policy developer for our facilities department. So I am literally cradle to grave, working with the program offices, working with procurement, and then helping to manage or set expectations for, have I lost can you still see my screen? Okay, good. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, program, our procurement department, and then seeing our contract through, making sure that our end users understand what the contract management actually entails, how to report concerns. That's where I focus. So it's different not being in the driver's seat, not being able to push my solicitation out anymore, but it's really cool to help set those standards that will help WMATA purchase better. So I like to start my classes off with a small exercise. So I'm going to ask each of you to take your hand, your right hand, place it over your heart. And now we're going to tap 4 times. I'll start first. Bump, 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 bump. Now on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bump, 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 bump. Woo! All right. So it looks like you just unlocked the procurement learning module of your brain and your heart. So that means we're ready to get started. I am going to start off with a joke. It's great, by the way. Eventually, I'm going to have a TV show and I'm just going to be your late night comedian. So why did the procurement officer carry a toolbox? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, well, because mastering requirements planning means having the right tools from need to negotiation. Hold your applause. I'll be here for the next hour. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So as you can see, I'm silly, but let's get down to our objectives. So as Travis said, your strong procurement outcomes are going to start way before the solicitation is issued. To deliver on time, within budget, and to specification, we have to focus on planning. So I'm not here with you long today, but in this brief session, we'll explore how to identify and define needs, engage stakeholders, and just gather the right information that sets your projects up for success. So another quick poll, and you can just add this in the chat. Which of these challenges is your biggest pain point? This will just kind of give me a sense of where everyone's coming from. And we have clarity of requests, poorly written specifications, managing stakeholders, budget issues, lack of supplier response, or non-dedicated technical experts or subject matter experts. What are we dealing with here? Clarity, okay, budget issues, lack of supplier responses. Oh man, that's a big one these days, which is surprising. Budget issues, clarity, yeah. A lot of clarity concerns. Oh, I see you, Deborah, I understand. Clarity, okay. So if you learn nothing else from the chat, it means that we're all in the same boat and we're all going through similar situations. And I think a lot of this is clearly related to planning, training, and educating. And that's, I guess, my little soapbox that I stand on is making sure that we're actually educating and training our end users so they know what we expect and what we need in order to be successful. Now, budget issues, there's not much I can do about that. The budget is what the budget is, but that is a huge concern, and we're seeing it nationwide. So let's just jump into reactive planning, the difference between reactive and proactive. So reactive basically means that you're just waiting until the PR lands on your desk, which means that we're working under pressure. You're finding a quick fix and sometimes dealing with mistakes or risks that could have been avoided if we planned. Often by the time the PR comes in, the need may have been identified months ago. And that's not on us. That's on educating our end users and our program departments on gathering that information. And ultimately, that leaves us fighting a battle, a losing battle before we ever even had visibility on the request, which is frustrating. It's very frustrating dealing with that. So on the proactive side, as you know, proactive planning means that we're basically anticipating the needs before they hit. We're aligning purchases with budgets and timelines and even sourcing strategies to save money. Now, proactive planning does not eliminate every emergency because literally that's the definition of emergency. Something's always going to come up. But if we are a bit more proactive, it will drastically reduce them. So the things that we have control over and the things that we can do to aid with the proactive planning with our program users and users is basically starting up some type of monthly or quarterly planning meeting where you're just talking about what is going wrong, what do you think is going to go wrong in the next few months, what do you think you're going to need visibility on. Having those actual planning meetings when you just have their full attention in those planning meetings, add some teaching, some educating, learning about what's working with the current contracts, what's not working. And ultimately, what's coming down the pipeline? What have you guys been talking about? Are you having any problems that you anticipate needing a solution to in the next few weeks, next few months? What goals and objectives exist in your team that we can help you support? And how all of that is going to affect the future projects. Just put an hour on the calendar once a month, if you can, once a quarter, if you can, and I assure you that will pay off. So one of the things that I experienced recently, actually here at WMATA, my former chief of procurement, Ms. Suzette Moore, she used to hold quarterly knowledge sharing events where procurement and internal stakeholders could present on a topic of their choosing. And essentially, these planning meetings served as a training platform where we shared knowledge. She would have new contract administrators or procurement officers come in and present topics, find things that they were good at, and train our end users on that. It was also a way to engage your team. You know, each quarter have someone from your team lead a small presentation on maybe the problems you've been experiencing, or maybe a refresher. It could cover a type of purchasing, a contracting method. You know, why not spend 20 minutes on RFPs or 20 minutes on an invitation for bid and what that means, what it entails, what the process is here, the timeline associated with those items. You know, whatever time that you can get when you have your program and end users to yourself, use that to teach, train, and plan. So that also gives your team a safe place to learn public speaking and help educate. So ultimately, it just makes everyone more unified, stronger. You know, we're all in the same boat. So that was a mouthful, but that leads me to my next question. So what do you call procurement without planning? Requirements panicking. Ah, it's on fire, help. Ew, 0 stars, do not recommend. All right, so we've just seen the difference between being proactive and reactive, but even when a PR lands on your desk, you don't just have to push it through. The key is to pause, take the time to evaluate it on the front end, because all PRs purchase requisitions are not created equally. So this is kind of where we get the bad stereotype of being paper pushers. We are not paper pushers. Our job is to review, evaluate, and make it make sense. So your role is not just to process this PR because it came across your desk. You don't push it, you don't process it, push it through and send it to the next person. You evaluate it. Think of it like a quality checkpoint. And one thing I have found from the NIGP website is NIGP has developed a very simple checklist to help you in your evaluation. Complete and authorize is your first check. Is the request fully filled out and approved by the right authority or authorities at your entity? The next one is clear. Does it actually and accurately describe what is needed, or is it vague? Is there an existing supplier contract? Do we already have this item in stock? Or is there a contract that we already have that we can ride or that we can utilize? Or is there a cooperative available that we already have set up that we can utilize? Those are the questions that we should be asking when we review. Then, are there any opportunities for bundling? Could this be grouped with any other purchases for better pricing and economies of scale? Your supplier base. Are there enough suppliers in the market to support competition? Everything is not sole source, but are you considering limited competition? Reject anything that is non-conforming. If it doesn't line up with the policy and it doesn't make sense, you should reject it before it goes further. Now, this is also where we talk about our little stereotypes. Oh, procurement is just, they say no, they block everything. Procurement just wants to make our job harder. No, if you're going to say no and you're going to reject it, you have to take the time to explain why. So I think before you reject anything, it would be a great time to have a conversation, call the person, schedule a Teams meeting. I know we barely have enough time to do our jobs, but take the time to educate, speak to them, and get a better understanding of what they're looking to do. And then once you understand, you say, well, for this request, I'm going to have to reject it until you make the corrections that we've discussed today. So an example, because I practice what I preach, when I worked at the Maryland Department of Health, I received a requisition that said office chairs, $20,000. That's it, office chairs. What? Unacceptable. I wasn't even going to try to figure it out. It was an instant call and request for a meeting. After clarification and an actual conversation with my end user, we realized that they needed 15 chairs immediately, and then the rest could be used or ordered through our existing bulk furniture contract. So that simply asking the question and learning more information, that saved us thousands of dollars and really aligned the request with a better sourcing strategy. So I always talk about my procurement dad. So, in the words of my procurement dad, measure twice, requisition once. Okay, so once we've evaluated the PR and confirmed that it's complete, our next step is really going to be looking outward. And that's where that market research aspect comes in. It's our compass that points us towards suppliers, trends, and pricing. Um, Again, a compass. It doesn't guarantee that the path will be easy, but it does help you navigate. It helps identify suppliers so you know who's out there and what options exist. It helps us spot trends like rising material costs due to tariffs or things of that nature, labor shortages, or even shifts in demand. And you get to track pricing so you can actually budget realistically and defend your estimates. Um, Market research is basically just like checking Google before you go to a new fancy restaurant in town. You know, skip it and you might regret your meal. I'm not going to skip it. So I'd love to hear from you in the chat. When you do market research, where do you usually start? Are you starting with suppliers, peer agencies, Google, GSA? What are you utilizing? Let's see if we're using the same information here. Yeah, Google, non-dedicated. Oh, okay, I see. Google, ChatGPT. Yep. Pavilion. I love Pavilion. Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite tools. Google AI, Pavilion, Google Chat, suppliers website. Yeah, and these are all great resources. Don't forget about you have the ability to go on what's this called? Insight on NIGP's website, and you can add information there looking for other agencies that have obtained similar goods or services. Yeah, SWPA, co-ops. Co-ops is definitely a fave, and I use Pavilion a lot to find that information. Okay, so we're all on the same page once again, and I think that's excellent. That's wonderful. So here are some sources of market intelligence. Market research tells us where we're headed, but essentially to do it effectively, we need the right sources. And that's where that market intelligence piece comes in. It's the data and insights we gather from different places to guide procurement decisions. So let's start by, I guess, defining it. NIGP has defined market intelligence as the information you collect about suppliers, industries, and pricing trends that help you make smarter procurement decisions. Essentially, it's not Googling a product, it's about pulling data from reliable sources and then analyzing it to guide your requirements. Market intelligence is kind of like gossip. You know, the difference is one saves you money and the other just ruins your lunch break. So here are some strong sources of market intelligence. So again, peer agencies learn from what others are buying and how they are buying it. We can do that by networking and making connections with peers at events like NIGP Forum. We can also look at trade associations. They often, publish reports, benchmarking data, supplier lists, things of that nature. My favorite tool, tried and true, RFIs. Why not just ask the market directly? Why seek third-party assistance when you can go straight to the source? So I personally love and live for a good RFI. And I use GSA. They also have a market research as a service. It's called MRAS that is available to state and local agencies like us. And basically they will survey all of their schedule holders and do that RFI for you, which often includes pricing data. So that's a really great tool for those of you who have not heard of that. And I'll add that to the chat. Okay. Oh, and I see Kat wants me to say more about RFIs. Kat, anything specific that you're looking for?
I am a new contract administrator and I don't even know what it stands for.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Great
Thank
catch.
you.
So that's a request for information, and it's typically used when we have something doesn't make sense to us. A good example would be, hey, I put this solicitation out twice. I've gotten no responses. I think that there's something wrong with the scope, but I've already consulted with my subject matter experts. They don't agree. They don't see anything wrong with the scope. So I might put out an RFI to the market to find out, hey, why is no one participating in this? Do I have something wrong in the scope? Is this a service that you can provide? And even before that, let's say I haven't put anything out. Let's say I know a lot about this information and or a lot about the good or service being procured, and I know that there are some changes here, the changes that need to be made. Let me take a step back and provide an example. I'm sorry, I'm going too deep in the weeds. So I also use it as a strategic tool for RFIs. When I am dealing with, I hate to say it, but difficult program or end users, and maybe difficult is not the right word, but people who don't seem to understand and don't want to understand, I will use an RFI to say, hey, I've told you that your scope is wrong, but you're not listening to me. I think you need to build it out. So I'm going to put it out to the market and allow the market to tell you what's missing. And then you have tangible data to go back and say, hey, I did an RFI. I know we weren't able to come to, a conclusion on our conversation, but this is what your market is telling you about your scope. These are the items that we need to address. These are the questions that they have. So I think before we put the solicitation out, these are the items that we need to address.
When you say put it out to the market, could you just give me a little more information about how you might do that? Give me an example.
Yes.
So what's the market? Where is the market? How do you talk? Who do you talk to?
Understood. So great question, and thank you. So it depends on what your agency rules and regulations are. I'll start there on RFIs. For me, what I'm allowed to do is I can post it like I'm posting a solicitation on our website, or I can do an informal solicitation via email. Now, I've used GSA where I just go to GSA and I fill out their tool, and they do the research for me, and they use their pool of vendors that are already approved and on a GSA schedule. They are GSA schedule holders. So GSA has already determined that they are, that their pricing is affordable or sufficient to the government's needs. That's an easy way. That's one place. Another place is through my market research, I look at the vendors that the program is suggesting. I also look at the SBA, Small Business Administration website. They have a giant database of small business vendors, and I search via NAICS code, but I think they also have an IGP code or other measures of searching that you can use. Or you could also have the ability, depending on your agency. For WMATA, we do have our own internal supplier. We have our own internal supplier database, and I can put that RFI only out to those people as well. But it just depends on what vendors you're looking to communicate with. I know I had a very specific service that I thought would be easy, but it was not. It was grass cutting, but it was grass cutting along the train tracks that required a special insurance, RWP, training and certificate, which also increases significantly the contractor's insurance. And I put the RFI out there because my program tried to say that it had to be a sole source. Only one company could do this. And for me, all I heard was one company can cut grass, and that's crazy. So I said, okay, if you think one company can do it, then I'm going to put it out there. But I know that this RWP is a specialized service and requires additional insurance. So I'm going to note that in my RFI, which is basically just your scope. It could be the full detailed scope, depending on your agency rules or regulations, or it could be a summary of the scope. I put out the full detailed scope and highlighted my concerns and put it out to the open market. I put it out to GSA. I also did my due diligence and found about 1,000 vendors on the Small Business Administration website on their database. Out of that 1,000, I received about 90 some responses. So when I came back to that meeting with my end users, I said, oh, I thought only one person could do it. And that was the case closed. So again, I love RFIs because it's a chance to prove it, collect that data, and then support it in whatever your argument is with your end users. I hope that answers your question, Kat. Travis?
Yes, thank you. I didn't want to interrupt, so I was waiting. But great, yeah, great explanation. And I think it's also good to know. So in New Mexico, I'm not sure about in DC or Baltimore, but there's a Governmental Conduct Act in New Mexico that states that we're not allowed to have vendors write our specs if they're going to bid on it later. So this is a way to get feedback from whatever industry or market you're looking at, and then they can also bid on it later because you're opening both pieces up to everyone. So just wanted to drop that note in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that actually goes right into suppliers. So here at WMATA, at least, you can contact suppliers. However, you would need to manage bias, but they often have the most up-to-date knowledge about materials and technology. So when we use suppliers as a source of market intelligence, we just need to protect the integrity of the process. For me, the key is just asking simple, factual questions, things like lead times, capacities, ranges, technical standards. And you cannot just rely on one supplier. You would have to reach out to a pool. So it's essentially the same as an RFI. So you would have to balance, input from multiple vendors, peers, or associations. And when you want to be fully transparent, you just use a formal tool like an RFI or sources sought, so everyone has the same opportunity to respond. And of course, if you are going to be talking to those suppliers, then you must document. You document your outreach, you keep copies of the emails, even short notes about what you asked so you can protect yourself from any appearance of bias. I know integrity is so important in procurement, and the appearance of bias can even prompt some unfortunate situations. So just protect yourself at all costs, document. And for me, I would stick to using the formal tool like an RFI. We also have online tools, things like government databases. I mentioned the SBA database, one of my favorite things to utilize because I always get great responses. We have cooperative contract sites. You can use Pavilion, you can use NASPO, Sourcewell, Omnia, things like that. Pricing indexes, and NIGP still has the document library where you can search other contracts that have been done and added by other agencies. With Pavilion, I saw a lot of people mention that in the chat. Oh man, they have a litany of other contract search engines on that page. And I think that, I think it's an amazing tool. It helps take so much time out of your market research, because previously for me, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone else, but I would Google. But they have a whole list of contracts and cooperatives right there at your fingertips by using pavilion. So I definitely would encourage you to utilize that as well. I'm also the queen of researching. I rely heavily on viewing what other agencies are doing. I like to benchmark. So prior to solicitation, I'm going to just look out there and see what other neighboring agencies are doing. I use, for my example, I work at a transit agency, so I'm going to be looking at Amtrak. I'm going to be looking at Maryland Transit. I'm going to be looking at DC Transit because they also have a separate transit outside of Metro. I'll be looking at all my neighboring states and similar transit agencies. And I believe NIGP on their Insight, they have areas where you can look at that. I think they have a specific community for transit agencies where you can send messages and ask questions. I believe they have one for health as well. And if I'm remembering incorrectly and they don't have one, I encourage you to start one. Why not? But yeah, I think that about covers it. Okay, let's keep moving. So essentially by now we've developed our specifications. We've made sure that, or excuse me, we have not. I skipped one. There we go. So now we've gathered our market intelligence, and now we're going to translate that information into clear specifications. And I think this is where I see a lot of my biggest challenges. Now, shameless plug, please be sure to check out NIGP's course on specification development. It's one of my favorite courses to teach because I am passionate about specification development. It's really a game changer because for me, has anyone ever taken a contract law course in here? So one of my favorite terms is contra pro forentum, and that means that the error lies with the draftsman. So whoever wrote it is the person who's at fault because they wrote it incorrectly. And I think that is key with specification development. So if we're going to put it on paper, we need to make sure that it makes sense. But my favorite joke to tell in that class is, why did the procurement team go to art class? To draw up detailed specifications. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to get it together. So specifications are basically the bridge between what stakeholders want and what the actual market can deliver. And essentially the way we write them up is what makes a difference in whether we get competition, fair pricing, and essentially the right outcomes. So there are 3 points that I want you to remember. Number one, focus on the function and performance. Instead of asking for a specific product or brand, just describe what it needs to do. For example, instead of Dell laptop, specify that you need a laptop with 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 14-inch screen, and a minimum 8 hours of battery life. Boom. Talk about the function and the performance. So typically, NIGP recommends that you avoid brands unless you have some type of justification. If you lock the requirement to a brand, you may be unintentionally cutting out competition and innovation. And that often raises costs and increases the risk of protests. For item 3, our next point to remember is just to collaborate with your end users. End users often know what they like, but they may not know how to frame it in a way that's competitive. So again, sit down with them and turn, I want, Dell laptops into, I need these features. And I think that's really the key there. All of this revolves around having the conversation. And in order to do that, we just need to make sure that the right people are involved in shaping and reviewing them. And I guess that's where stakeholders come in, which is up next. But the trick is choosing them wisely because, as you know, stakeholders can make or break your procurement process. So you need to make sure that you're involving the right ones that build clarity and buy-in. but not too many because that can slow everything down. So I guess the question here is, how do we decide who belongs? And we have 3 criteria to keep in mind. So knowledge, we want people with technical expertise or specialized input. For example, if you're buying software, we know we need IT. If we're buying something HVAC related, then we know that we may need facilities and we may need the engineers. We may need architecture. The next one is authority. We need actual decision makers, people who can approve budgets, validate compliance, and actually sign off on those requirements. And lastly, the direct use, or the people that are direct users, the actual end users that rely on the product and service daily because they can tell you what's going right, what's going wrong. And their feedback is going to ensure practicality. So has anyone ever had a project where there were too many stakeholders involved? Anybody want to unmute and tell me what happened? Okay, if not, I can share. I've got a million stories. So I know when I was working at the Behavioral Health Administration, I had a behavioral health services contract that required lived experience. It was a contract that was supplementing, oh gosh, something that was supplementing like a homelessness concern. And essentially, the end user wanted to have their entire team in every meeting. And I'm talking 10 plus meetings, 10 plus people, excuse me. Thankfully, my director at the time recommended that only those with direct knowledge or use of the project should be involved. And then they were free to share their notes with the rest of the team. But 10 is a lot. Trying to manage expectations and concerns within 10. For me, I would love a good 5. I think that's my max. But I've done another training with this similar topic, and someone told me they had 50 people on an evaluation panel. And I said, well, how did you get anything done? That just blew my mind. But yeah, so just make sure that you know who actually needs to be there. If they're not providing value with knowledge, authority, or direct use, I would not include them. Okay. So now that we've identified the right stakeholders, what exactly do we need to focus on with them? And for me, if anyone has taken the CPB, there we go, or CPPO, you might be familiar with something, the 5 rights of procurement. And that's basically our classic foundation. They sound simple, but they frame every decision that we make. We're ultimately looking to buy the right quantity. Are we buying the right amount? Too much can tie up funds, too little can stop operations. Are we buying the right quality? Does the product or service meet the actual need? Over-specifying can waste money, while under-specifying can lead to failure. The right place. Are we considering delivery, installation, or the service location? Getting it to the right place is just as important as the item itself. I was on another class where, as a matter of fact, my specification development class, where someone had ordered a printer and the printer was great, but they couldn't get it into the building. It couldn't fit. And they had to get special access to open up some type of garage door to get it in. But who measured or was responsible for the location and making sure that the item could fit in the place that it needed to go? That's interesting to me. I've never had that problem, but hey, hearing that, I make sure that I will never have that problem. So also the right price. Price is more than just the lowest bid. It's about best value, the total cost of ownership, and sustainability over time. And lastly, the right time. The timing is critical. delivering it too early can be just as disruptive as delivering it too late. Storage, cash flow, and project readiness all matter. I actually literally today got an email about one of my projects. I have a facility management contract, and we are allowing the vendor, the awarded vendor, to monitor and manage all 3 of our headquarters buildings here. And they just placed a big, huge order for filters because it's that time, it's starting to warm up here. So we need to change the filters and get ready for summer season. They asked, I don't know who they asked, but they asked one of our departments to store the items. Why did they store filters outside? It's like 10 pallets of filters damaged. I don't even know how I'm going to solve this problem, but I'll figure it out later today. But again, that is important. That's the place, that's the time, and it's the right price because now I have to rebuy them. But anyway, so for those who are studying for certification, as you can tell, I like to do silly things. So I like to make up funny things to help me study. And the way that I remembered the 5 rights was 2 Q-tips and hold the eyes. So it's 2 QQ T lowercase I PPS, and that's the way I helped remember for the exam. I hope that helps someone. Okay, we are getting to the end. So we talked about the 5 rights, but again, now how do we actually uncover that information from our stakeholders? And for me, it's simple. It's the same thing I've been saying throughout this presentation, is communicate. We have to ask better questions. Communication is the key that unlocks clarity. And I saw a lot of you put clarity in the as one of your bigger factors or biggest problems that you're dealing with right now. So we just have to find a better way to communicate and ask those questions with our stakeholders. And I believe a lot of that includes setting up and maintaining a good relationship where they trust you to come to you with information and they trust you to help them solve their problems. So they're not going to always hand us clear requirements. Something is always going to need to be updated. Maybe they don't know, but that's where those good questions come in. So I think the most 4 powerful ones you can ask are, number 1, what problem are we solving? And that's going to shift the focus from a product to a solution. The next one is going to be, how will success be measured? And that helps you write measurable performance requirements. Then we have what risks exist. I can't even talk here. And that's going to bring out hidden issues forward, maybe delivery challenges, funding concerns. Maybe they ordered this last year and they had all types of problems. Well, that's the information we need to know that they may not be writing in their requests. And then what's the timeline? Because timing drives everything from sourcing method to pricing to supplier selection. What is the timing? When do you need it by? So we just had a big snow season in January. It was crazy. We had a big blizzard, and it shut down operations. But it made us look at some of the contracts. So one of the snow contracts, the initial request was vague. It said, we need the lot cleared. Well, what does cleared look like to you? Because something like that is subjective. And we ended up having an issue with how the lot was cleared. Because although a lot of the snow was moved to one area, well, guess what? It was moved to handicap parking spots. And now we have an ADA access concern. So did they do their job? Well, according to our scope, the lot was cleared. We just didn't add parameters on where the proper place was to put the snow. So the best way to clear up subjectivity for me is asking about success measurement. So what would success look like? And really, we learned that the requirement was staff needed to be able to safely enter the building by 7 a.m. and they needed to have all ADA access areas cleared. So that became the performance metric, and that changed the scope. So we need the lot cleared, transformed into the vendor shall remove snow and ice from the entire parking lot and walkways by 7 a.m. each day of service. Snow shall be shoveled or plowed and piled in a designated corner, not to exceed the width of 3 parking spaces. Salt or approved de-icing material shall be applied to all cleared surfaces to ensure safe entry to the facility. Work shall be completed without blocking fire lanes, building entrances, or ADA accessible spaces. We need the lot cleared. No, this is what we need. And that rewrite makes the requirement measurable. Instead of saying just clear the lot, we have a clear deadline, we have limits, we have functional outcomes and compliance requirements all included. And that's the difference between vague specs and enforceable performance requirements. So take a look at these 4 questions and tell me, what is the hardest to ask? What is the real problem? How will success be measured? What risks exist and why this option? Feel free to write it in the chat, write a number, or write the question. Let's see. Yeah, what risks exist? Why this option? Yep. Why this option? Okay, risk, what's the real problem? Yep. Well, for some of us asking what's the real problem, it feels like we're challenging the stakeholder. But the reality is we're trying to perform a root cause analysis. So I want you to reframe the way you think about this in your mind. You're not challenging them. You want to know at the barest bones, what problem are we trying to solve? Then how will success be measured? That can definitely be tough, especially when the project is fuzzy or politically sensitive. But if we cannot measure it, how can we say that the vendor is performing as requested? This is that contract management piece, because then we want to say, oh, well, they didn't do what we asked them to do. Well, how did you measure success? How did you identify that? You didn't. So we don't have 2 legs to stand on. The next question, what risks exist? That sometimes gets brushed off because people haven't even considered the risks, or they may have concerns about truly admitting what the risk may be up front. But if you don't ask, you won't know. So I definitely encourage you to challenge the status quo and ask the tough questions. And lastly, why this option? It can sound like you're second guessing someone. So it requires a little bit of tact. We're going to have to figure out a way to say it nicely. But essentially, we want to know is what analysis has been done to confirm that this is the best action? How did you reach this decision point? They have to explain this information to us, because that helps us and guides us as we do our solicitation. So that brings us to site visits. Sometimes the best way to clarify requirements isn't in the meeting room, it's out in the field. And I think that's why site visits are so valuable. Again, like RFIs, it's tried and true. Site visits give us context on what we always can't get from paperwork. And there's some very important things here that matter. Delivery access. I told you about someone who couldn't deliver their doggone printer. You know how frustrating that must be? You told everybody, oh, the printer is being delivered today. Everybody's on site. You have IT here ready to connect everything, and you can't get it in the building. We have to ask those questions, and having a site visit could have assisted with that. Can cranes or trucks or suppliers actually get into the site? Then we have disposal issues. Well, where will old materials or equipment go once it's replaced? Compatibility. Will the new item fit with the existing infrastructure? It helps to build trust. Seeing the site together helps keep stakeholders and vendors on the same page. So another example, and I'm sorry I keep giving you all these examples. I feel like I've lived 4 procurement lives. But we had a glass cleaning contract that it looked so simple on paper. Just come and clean the glass at the train station. But during the site visit, one of the vendors noticed that the harnesses for the workers did not actually meet code. So that detail would not have shown up in a PR or spec because we assumed, hey, there's a harness there, or I don't even know what the proper term is, but there's some metal hook that they click their harness into and it's there, but it wasn't the right one. And it was critical to protecting both workers and the agency. That vendor bringing that question to us made us stop the solicitation, bring in an independent third-party evaluator to determine if these were acceptable or not. And we found out that they were not. So had someone come out and gotten injured using our hooks that were improper, it would have been a very big deal. So yeah, sometimes there are some things that can be uncovered during a site visit. Okay, so we're at our next question and we're at slide 14 out of 19. So just hang in there with me. So if we are doing a cafeteria food service contract, what would you ask during a site visit? So on paper, my PR might just say, provide cafeteria operations and food service. It sounds straightforward, but we actually know that site visits may uncover the real details. So if I were you on that site visit, I would ask, hey, how is the food delivered to the site? Is there a loading dock? Is there access to the loading dock? What condition is the kitchen equipment in? Are vendors going to need to bring their own? Are there disposal or sanitation requirements we need to account for? How many people are typically served daily and at what times? Are there ADA or safety considerations in the layout? So these questions might help us move beyond the surface description and into functional requirements that make or break the contract. Feel free to add any other questions that you would want to know in the chat. Let's see. Nutritional options, delivery schedule. Yep, all of that is important. Okay, so stakeholders often hand us a mix of needs and wants, but they don't always distinguish between the two. So a part of our job is also helping them figure that out. So needs are going to be your essentials, the function that must be delivered in order for the project to succeed. And of course, your wants are going to be the preferences, things that might be nice, but aren't really essential to success. For example, a need might be trash cans that hold 30 gallons and fit standard liners. And a want might be that those trash cans match the department's logo colors. Now that want may drive up the cost by $25,000 in a real life case, but we were able to push back and save that money. But the difference is simple. Needs keep the project functional, wants can drive costs up without adding real value. And I'm going to be honest with you guys here. This is one of those instances where girl math does not work for me. So I wanted one of those mocha frappuccino lattes from one of those fancy coffee places. And my husband said, well, just make the coffee at home. At home? He politely reminded me that we have a top of the line Keurig at home. And he did not just stop there. He quickly gathered me together with his unwelcomed root cause analysis. And he said, Sid, well, you need caffeine. You might want it with oat milk and caramel and whipped cream and all that extra stuff. But all that extra stuff is blowing up our weekly budget. Boo. But it sounds familiar. Needless to say, I've been bringing my coffee with me to work these days. But it's just funny how a needs versus wants root cause analysis is the same in our personal lives and at work. You have to find out what the true need is. Yes, I need coffee. No, I don't need Starbucks. Okay, so we focused on internal planning, needs, wants, site visits, and the reality is sometimes the real curveballs come from outside requirements that we can't control. External requirements can completely change how we write and evaluate requirements. Even when our stakeholders are aligned, we still have to double check against these three main outside forces. Grants, if a project is funded by federal or state grants, we may have requirements like Buy America, disadvantaged business participation goals, or even environmental sustainability standards. And if you miss those, you could lose your funding. So making sure that you pay attention to those type of things is really, really important. Then we also have statutes. Local or national laws often dictate our purchasing thresholds, competition rules, and our set-asides. For example, some projects must be advertised for a minimum number of days. So if you got everything else right, you definitely don't want to lose out on these external requirements. And the last one is regulations, agency policies, OSHA standards, EPA rules, things of that nature. They're like speed limits. You may not like them, but ignoring them can cost you a lot more than just time. So just make sure that you are doing, checking all your boxes there. So it's 3 o'clock. I'm going to wrap it up. We're down to our last 2 slides. So now that we've walked through all the building blocks of requirements planning, let's put together a true action plan that you can actually use in practice. This is a great item to screenshot or just use as a keepsake for planning. But step 1, we're going to start early. Don't wait until the purchase request lands on your desk. Be proactive and anticipate needs by keeping an eye on project timelines, grant deadlines, maintenance cycles. Step 2, you're going to clarify. Not every purchase request comes in crystal clear, so you're going to check for completeness, authorization, and whether the request really matches the actual need. Step 3, you're going to research the market, because market research is our compass. It shows you who's out there, what solutions exist, and what pricing trends that you should expect. Step 4, you're going to engage your stakeholders. Bring in those people with knowledge, authority, and direct use of the product or service. And if you miss the right voices, you'll miss the requirements. Step 5, visit the site. Nothing replaces seeing the conditions for yourself. Whether it's a cafeteria kitchen, a bus garage, or an office space, you'll uncover issues that you might not see on paper alone. Step 6 is going to be prioritizing your needs, distinguishing between what's mission critical versus what's just a nice to have. And of course, that's going to keep costs under control and make sure that your timelines are realistic. Step 7, you're going to check your external rules. Remember, your statutes, grants, and regulations may shape or even limit how you buy. Compliance is not optional. It is part of the requirement. And lastly, you're going to document and communicate. Capture all that you've learned through the process and share it back. Documentation not only aligns the team, but it protects you when questions come up later. All right, so we've covered a lot today, and I'd love to open the floor to your questions. Think about your own projects. Where do you run into challenges in requirements planning? I also encourage you to share your best practices. Sometimes the best part and most valuable part of sessions like this is hearing how others in the field tackle the same issues that we face. Any questions for me today? I know we're at time. Let's see. Oh, you're quite welcome. Okay. I see Lane, let my girl have her coffee. I agree. Okay, no questions. Well, I am going to be respectful of your time. I believe we're 3 minutes past due. It's been a pleasure hanging in there with you today. It's been a pleasure learning with you, speaking with you. Just remember, good planning isn't magic. It's just common sense written down. That's all. Thank
you so much. Thank you, Sydnee. Appreciate that. That was a lot of good information. I'm sure a lot of us will benefit from that.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, of course. Thanks all for attending. keep an eye out for the next one and any information we'll provide.
And just a heads up, Travis, everybody's asking for these slides. It will be available in our document library. So if you want to jump there, the full presentation will be there as well.
Awesome. Thank you, David. All right. I hope everybody has a good one.
Is that just going to be the slides themselves or the recorded presentation?
I'm gonna try to put the presentation on YouTube on the NMPPA channel.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thanks.
And I may be able to link it on the website. So.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great day.